I'm Literary Freak 11, and this is my Owls TBR update for the 11th day. And so I finished one book since my last update, Proven Guilty, the 8th in the Dresden Files series, and honestly I think that this was one of my favorite books. I actually love that the initial mystery that he sets out to solve never actually gets solved, and there is a war that's mentioned in the third book, and then it kind of gets shoved aside for books like 4, 5, and 6. And then especially 5 and 6. A little bit in 4, but mostly 5 and 6. Then in 7 it comes back, and in 8 it just hits you like full force. There's so much going on all the time, and it's a lot of fun. And so I really, really like this installment. So the next book that I'm going to be talking about, I switched my TBR for those of you who watched my book haul last week, and so I will not be reading this as part of my TBR, although I will continue to kind of slowly plug away at this. I have replaced that with Foundry Side because this was on hold at my library. I didn't want to put anything on my TBR that was on hold because then I never knew if I was going to get it that month or not. So I did get it, so I kind of just had to make room for it in my TBR, and so I'm trying to finish this in 7 days. I still have, I think, 40 more pages to read tonight in order to meet that. This is an adult book, and I see why. It's complicated as heck, and there's a lot of, like, disgusting things that happen in this book that are, like, described, the filth and the squalor that the main character lives in. Basically, this is a book about this girl who has been commissioned. She's a thief. She's commissioned to steal this object. This object turns out to be insanely powerful, and everyone's after her for it, and so she kind of gets thrown into all this chaos. There was like a part where it lagged. It's really, really technical about the magic system. It takes kind of chunks of time out to explain how things work to her. Like, I don't care how this works. But it's really interesting because the magic system is you can use certain runes or sigils to convince objects that they are things that they are not, or to convince them that gravity is acting upon them differently. This is for my charms class, which means this is one of my primary required readings that I have to finish for this month in order to get that owl, in order to be a magizoologist. And it's a 500-page book, so I don't know why I did that to myself. The next book I'm in the middle of is A Natural History of Dragons for Care of Magical Creatures, and I think this book also fit really well with the prompt versus I have another book with a land animal. The Field Guide to the North American Teenager actually has a moose on it, but this one just fits well with the prompt because this is a woman who, in a time where society does not particularly believe women should have, adventurous careers, basically, goes on voyages, and then she writes about her memoirs in this book, and it's written like in this kind of, late 1800s, early 1900s speak, and it is so good. Like, I can tell I'm a little bit less than halfway through, and I can tell this is going to be a 5-star book, and I'm going to read the rest of this series because I need more of this, and I just love the technical aspects of it. And there's no real magic in this universe. It's just that, everything is the same, but that dragons exist, but it goes through her whole life story, and I cannot rave much more about this book. It is so good, and honestly, I've been reading it pretty fast, and so hopefully I will be able to continue with that. I'm actually kind of nervous because I haven't finished a book in 3 days, and according to my calculations, if I don't finish a book tomorrow, I'll be behind schedule, but hopefully I'll be able to finish my audiobook, and that is Rook, beginning with R for the Reducto Curse for Defense Against the Dark Arts, and this book is set really far in the future, and basically stuff has happened to our society, the Great Dying, where we were all too reliant on technology, so we couldn't survive whatever happened to us, and so there's a lot of technology that's not allowed anymore. Plastic, it's like, do we melt it down and make other things out of it, or do we save it as antiques for history? And basically in this universe, the French Revolution is happening again, if that makes sense. And, all these people are like, who have wrongthink are being executed. And basically this girl, the Rook, is trying to break people out of prison, and while also trying to avoid capture. And it is, I don't know, there are like certain parts that I really just didn't care for, and now things are picking up. It's towards the final climax. I have, I think, 3 hours left, and so hopefully I'll be able to finish that tomorrow. And it's pretty up and down, but I love the way that society is structured and how they like speculate about like us, our society, the people that came before. The one thing that I will say about this audiobook that I really, really hate, two things, is the first is there's a lot of switch in perspectives, especially as it goes on and the action starts picking up and the group of characters has kind of split, and there's no like demarcation of, oh yeah, this is a new section, and so you're suddenly listening to someone else's perspective, and it's very confusing. And there's probably an asterisk there if you're reading it, but if you're listening to it, there's nothing. And what I would like is for just 2 seconds of silence that would just separate these things. And the other thing that was really confusing is there's a character named Albert and there's one named Almond, and that was just awful. And they're both on the same side, like there's, good, evil. To the book that I forgot to mention, one of the characters who is supposed to be her friend is evil. Like, he has good intentions, but so do a lot of bad guys, but he's literally evil. I don't think he's supposed to be written like that, but he's in love with the main character, and he's so manipulative of her. He's like, you don't know what's best for you, so I'm gonna manipulate you so that what I think is best for you will happen. And it's despicable, and I can't even handle it, and I want him to die. That's all that I'm in the middle of right now, and so hopefully in my next update I'll have more to talk about. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe.